What's up, everybody? It is time for a bit of a Q&A. It's been a little while. Not if you follow me on Instagram, because I actually do a lot of Q&As on there. And I don't know, I figured I don't have a ton of time to make videos usually these days, at least for covers, but when I have a few minutes away from work or something, then I can usually pop in here and say some stuff. So I got some questions written down. I had taken, or I had made a post on the community tab of my page on here, and got a couple dozen questions on there. So I picked out a few of them. I don't have time to do all of them, but here we go. First question is by Cats and Guitars, 1867. They want to know my thoughts on extreme metal, genres like death metal, grindcore, black metal, etc. I do like metal in general, but I would say that most of what I go for is fairly vanilla type genres or subgenres. I like, classic metal, like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Dio, that sort of stuff. The classic earlier stuff. I do get into some others, like a little bit of speed metal here and there, like the earlier stuff, like 90s stuff. One of my favorite metal bands growing up is Gravedigger. They're out of Germany, and a lot of their songs are pretty fast. I think usually they're categorically speed metal, but I don't really get into like nailing down bands into genres. They are what they are. I like a lot of power metal, which is very cheesy. A lot of it's like fantasy driven lyrics, talking about, I don't know, dragons and shit. But bands like Hammerfall, I'm really into them, and a bunch of others. But yeah, that's about it. There's some other bands, like Metallica is a good one. They're still going strong. I like them. I don't know. I'm not gonna say too much more. There's not a ton for like heavier stuff like death metal, grindcore, that sort of stuff. It's a little beyond me personally. It's not super accessible for me. I prefer being able to understand the singers, but I haven't really dipped my toe too much in the water. But usually when I hear it, I'm like, okay, I appreciate it, but it's not for me. I got a question here from Daniel Carter. Wants to know if I plan on doing a review of the Nocturnal Amplifiers, the Amulet. And I did a video with that amp maybe a little over a year ago, where I did a new version of one of my songs, and the video I thought turned out pretty well. We recorded everything at the builder's house. His name is Dan, and I've been close friends with Dan for quite a few years now, and while I don't own the amp, I would like to play it more. It is a great amp. I don't personally have a great setup at home in order to make a review like this. And when we made that other video, it was actually at his place. He lives a little bit away. I know that his studio space where he makes everything, his workshop, is about an hour from me. And just based on his free time, my free time, he literally just had a kid, his second kid, not too long ago, and me juggling my time as a parent, and working, it's hard to find the time to really dedicate something like that, or dedicate time to something like that. But I'd like to play it more. I'd love to own one someday. It really is a terrific amplifier. He's definitely getting his name out there. I see more and more bands and guitar players getting interested in it, and I highly recommend it. But in terms of a video review, it would take quite a bit of time. I'd have to dedicate like half a day to the process, and it's just kind of out of the question right now, but maybe somewhere down the line, we'll see. All right, picking up where we left off. I had to stop suddenly, but anyway, Nolan wants to know what my favorite album is that I wrote, and I could get into a long discussion about this, and I probably have, but I would probably have to go with Big Riff Energy by a slight margin, just because I feel like it's kind of ticked all the boxes for what I've wanted to do over the past few years. I mean, it feels like one cohesive thought, where some of the previous albums were kind of, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I'm really happy with the guitar tones. I'm really happy with the mix. I'm really happy with the riffs. I really wanted to get, you know, a lot of riffs in there, and I don't know. I'm super proud of that album, and if that was the last one that I ever made, then I'd be okay. I'd be happy with where I left off. Next question. Monique wants to know my thoughts on the new Sum 41 song, Landmines, and I'm reading off a paper still, and my thoughts on their eventual breakup, which they have planned after this album cycle. It's surprising that they decided that they were going to break up, because I feel like a lot of bands these days, you know, at least from like the early 2000s in the pop punk scene, like they had already broken up, and now's the time that they're getting back together and doing tours again. You know, like Yellow Card, and I see like Story of the Year, I think that's what it was, and like doing tours. And granted, I don't know a lot about the Story of the Year, but I'm pretty sure they weren't together for a while and they're back doing stuff. But I don't know, I could be wrong, but definitely like Yellow Card. And so I was just surprised to see that announcement when it happened, because right before that happened, I swear, like a couple days before that, I was listening to a fairly recent podcast. I think it was Tuna on Toast or something. It was the one with Stryker. I think he's from one of those radio stations, K-Rock maybe, I don't remember. But he did an interview with Derek, and it was a great interview, and he did talk about some different things, like selling his rights to hit the songs, but it didn't make me think that a breakup was coming. I was very surprised, especially when he was talking about how freeing selling his catalog made him feel, because now he can just keep writing songs. Like, he feels like, in a way, he has to write the songs because now it gives him more purpose. So I don't know. It was surprising, but I get it. You know, you don't want to. Not everybody wants to be, you know, in Sum 41 forever, or nobody wants to be, you know, Blink 182 forever, or whatever. But anyway, and as far as the new song Landmines goes, it's not my favorite. I think it's okay. It's really nothing special in my eyes personally, but I don't really go for that just like standard pop punk kind of thing anymore. It does feel a little lacking in terms of maybe like a harder edge. I mean, I do know that the plan for the new album it's a double album, I guess, and some of it's going to be heavy, some of it's not, so I get that. But it's not really the Sum 41 I want to hear. I want something a bit more out of them. It feels a little lacking to me. Excuse me. I don't know how to say this name. Songahan? I don't know. Wants to know my thoughts on Blink-182's current live shows, their set list, their performance, etc. It's cool that they're touring again. It's obvious that they're putting in the effort. It's They look like fun shows. I really haven't paid too much attention to the new live, setup too much. I did watch, what was it, Lollapalooza, or it was something. It was like their first show back. They did it like some live streams. I forget exactly what it was. I think it was Lollapalooza. And those were good shows, especially for a first show back. And the set list is what it is. I mean, that was always a big complaint for me, back around Neighborhoods and the albums after that, or the touring after that. I felt like the set list was always fairly predictable. It was all the singles and then like a couple fan favorites, but they never really played many oddball tracks. There was a short tour that Blink did in Australia a couple years ago where Travis didn't go, and I think Brooks Wackerman played drums, and they did like a small like acoustic thing like in the middle of the show. And I remember they played like a couple interesting songs, like songs you wouldn't expect during those tracks, from what I can remember. I really enjoyed that. So I'd like to see Blink play, some oddball songs, like something from Dude Ranch, play Untitled, or play Pathetic, or play, Enthused, stuff like that. I don't need to hear them play Stay Together for the Kids again. I don't need to hear them play What's My Age again. I get that those are the singles, those are the songs that most of these bands, or most of these fans are going to see, but you don't have to do all of them. You don't have to do every single single. That sounded weird. But you get what I'm saying. You don't have to play Up All Night and What's My Age Again and Adam's Song and First Aid and Rock Show. You can mix it up. But that's just nitpicking at this point. They're all still great songs. They make for a fun set, and I don't have really too much to complain about in terms of the set list, I guess. As far as like the performance goes, I feel like it's pretty obvious that there are some backing tracks. I've been shown plenty of evidence to suggest that Tom isn't really playing all of his guitar parts, which frankly I think is just better for the show in general. He's a sloppy guitar player, and always has been live. So I think if he's playing along to a fairly perfect guitar track, it's not a huge deal to me. If it's making the show better, if it's making it easier on him to focus more on singing, great, because his singing, I feel like, is more important, and that obviously can't really be faked too much. I feel like it's pretty obvious that he's trying to sing and he's doing what he can. So I'm okay with it. It is what it is. But everything else sounds great. Like I said, I haven't really paid too much attention to their live shows since they've done, like the full US tour, and now they're overseas. But it looks like everyone's having a blast, and I think it's great. So would I go out and see Blink again? Probably not. I mean, I've already seen them 4 times over the last few years. Maybe if they're still going in like 6 or 7 years and I can bring my daughter if she's into it, that would be great, but I don't need to see it again personally. Next question is from Jacob Donnelly. He wants to know how my work-life balance has changed since fatherhood, with music, recording new songs, and recording covers and stuff like that. Yeah, fatherhood is certainly changed everything. I mean, just last night I set up the bath for Mama to go and give Lila a bath, and that's usually when I get a couple things ready, but then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go play guitar real quick while she's having fun in the bath. And I was working on an original song, trying to come up with a riff or something, and then I hear from the other room, she had an accident in the tub. So I had to go into the bathroom and fish a gigantic turd out of the tub. And not only that, but there was a piece that had fallen on the floor that I did not see that ended up between my toes. So that is fatherhood. It comes first in all aspects of life now, and everything else really comes second. I find time to record music when I can. Covers are obviously very few and far between, but you know, like for example, I covered the More Than You Know from Blink. That was a very easy song. I learned that song in like 10 minutes, and it took me 2 takes, I think, to record a version that I was happy with. So that didn't necessarily take a lot of time. But for another example, I'm working on a cover of a 4 Year Strong song, and that's more involved. That takes a bit more effort. Takes it's more harder to perform, and it's a little bit harder to learn because I don't know Alan and Dan of 4 Year Strong. I don't know their style quite as well as I know Tom. Like Tom DeLonge, I know him, you know, frontwards and backwards, you know, as far as guitar goes. So I have to try to find the time to do these things, and usually I'll have to, you know, wait for a nap time or something when she's conked out for like an hour or more sometimes, which is, you know, thank God. And that's why like the digital setup comes in handy, because I can play as quiet as I need to and it still sounds great. So that's helpful. But yeah, in general, if I want to have like a lot of time to record music, I have to wake up earlier, and that always isn't the case, or that always isn't easy for me. Sometimes it is pretty difficult, because sleep is not a guarantee when you're a father. So if the night goes long, or if I'm woken up in the middle of the night or something, you know, I'm not necessarily going to want to wake up early to try and record something. And recording riffs at like 5 in the morning, I've made it happen, but it's not easy. It is not easy at all. So yeah, it's tough. It's, like I said, number one priority. Everything else isn't as important. Last question I have for now, because I don't want to make this video super long. I have a question from Brody Calvert. He wants to know how I learned how to build guitars. And basically, I started messing around with some fenders maybe around 10 or 11 years ago, and was having a little bit of success, but you know, I was still rough around the edges. And I found this guitar builder about an hour away from me named Trevor Healy, who I've mentioned plenty of times, and he taught me the ropes. I worked with him every Saturday for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months. I don't even know at this point, teaching me how to do a lot of different setup work, changing pickups and filing nuts and stuff like that. And yeah, it paid off a lot. I mean, I'm definitely not on his level by any means. I still would bring my guitar to him or to another professional if I needed something involved. But I've saved myself a lot of money learning how to do quick things, little things, you know, like a little bit of fret work, or intonating, or adjusting the truss rod, stuff like that. So that was a big help. I highly suggest learning how to do your own stuff. And there's a lot of great tutorials on YouTube as well. So definitely check those out. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully the camera isn't super bright. It looks like it is. I might have to adjust that, but I don't know. Appreciate you guys watching the video. Appreciate the questions. Sorry I didn't get to them all. If you have any more questions, you want me to do another video like this, just leave them below, and I'll take the questions off of this one for the next one. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.